It is just over 4 years now since the raid that killed Osama bin Laden, and now U.S. intelligence officials are finally releasing more than 100 documents that were found in the compound in Abbottabad. Welcome, everybody. We're just getting a look at all this in America's Newsroom here as we start Hour 2. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Bill Hemmer. Good morning. As we go through this, remember now the intelligence officials saying they had discovered a, quote, treasure trove of information while raiding that compound, and now finally some of that is made public.
And we're just getting a look at it. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is beginning that process with us now, and she joins us now. So, Catherine, what's the headline here?
Well, one of the headlines is that these documents for the first time are going to sort of take us inside the mind of Osama bin Laden. We've reviewed one letter that was posted just within the last few minutes by the Director of National Intelligence, and that letter speaks to the USS Cole attack and what was some dissent within the al-Qaeda organization about launching that attack in 2000, and that was seen as one of the seminal attacks leading up to 9/11. So it will give us a piece of history and inside bin Laden's mind. But one thing I would caution is that these are English language translations from the Arabic, and it will be difficult to verify whether these translations are entirely accurate, Martha.
Because interpretations could obviously vary slightly when they are translated, and we've just started looking through some of these letters as well. I remember when this happened, and as Bill just said, we were told there was a treasure trove of intel that was gathered, and we've spoken to some of the people who were in that operation, and they've wanted to know, as well as many others, where has it been? What took so long to get this stuff out?
Well, the statement this morning is that the release of these documents, there's sort of two buckets, one that had to be declassified and the other which could be released sort of as is, if you will, is that it's in keeping with the administration's pledge of transparency. I think you have to take that with a grain of salt, because the reason these documents, the release was almost a forced release, is because of language was included in the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, by the now chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, mandating the release of these documents, because the criticism has been that what had been released today was kind of cherry-picked to portray this picture of bin Laden as kind of this feckless leader who was losing control of his organization, when the less than 20 documents really were not even sort of scratching the surface of what had been recovered from the compound in Pakistan, Martha.
Yeah. So in terms of the big picture here and how these documents might be useful to sort of giving us an indication of how active he was then, I mean, clearly, just in some of what we've seen so far, he was calling actively for more attacks on the West, correct?
That's right. Well, based on a review by the AFP that was given an advanced review of these documents, which is, I think, begs further questioning, and why other news organizations were not, is that it portrays bin Laden as still focused on the United States, but also trying to maintain order and limit division within his organization. So was the judgment that al-Qaeda was on the run really backed up by these documents, or will they in fact show that part of his grand plan was to create this ideology that could operate independently in different parts of the world, which is in effect what we're seeing today, Martha?
We've seen happen. Exactly. Catherine, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters now with us, Fox News strategic analyst. And Colonel, good morning to you. I see two things that stick out at me immediately. He was looking for large-scale terror operations, and he did not win that argument. A lot of these places in Syria and Iraq, they were carried out by a lot of maybe the lone wolves right now, and you could probably make that case here in the U.S. as well on a few circumstances. With regard to the Arab Spring, apparently, according to the AFP write-up here, bin Laden was stunned by the Arab uprisings that erupted across the region in 2010, urging his deputies to seize the moment of, quote, revolution and rally Muslim youth. First glance at this, Colonel, what do you see?
What I see is an attempt by the administration to divert our attention from the fall of Ramadi. Bill, do you think it's an accident that these documents are suddenly dumped on us when the administration's horribly embarrassed by having claimed that Islamic State was on the defensive? So what they're doing is they're putting out these documents showing, well, bin Laden was a threat to the homeland. He wanted to get America, but we killed bin Laden. They're reverting to their one foreign policy win in 6.5 years. So I find it very cynical. Now, I'm anxious to read all the documents. Hopefully they're well translated. but it does, I suspect, they too have been carefully cherry-picked.
Okay, you know, lawmakers wanted it out there, and the critics were accusing the CIA of withholding this material.
Yeah,
I got it. But so you've got this major collapse of a key city 70 miles west of Baghdad. Ramadi is falling here. But remember what Catherine just said. We were told al-Qaeda was on the run. These documents, at an early glance, show that bin Laden was communicating often and with many people about the direction of this Islamic movement.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to look at the dates in the documents and what was actually said. But there's no question about the fact that the Obama administration wildly underestimated the appeal of Islamist fanaticism. They still won't talk about it in proper terms today. They right through last weekend, they were downplaying the potency of Islamic State. And Bill, there is no question but that Islamic State, its hideous beliefs, but above all, its brutal practices, have incredibly powerful appeal to disaffected young men throughout much of the Muslim world and in the West. So I think the administration's just been, it's in denial, it's struggling desperately to show that it's keeping us more secure, but I don't see the evidence.
You mentioned Ramadi. Adam Kinzinger, Republican from Illinois. He serves in the Air National Guard. He was in Iraq 6 months ago. This is what he said about a call for a strategy to knock ISIS back now.
I commend him on resetting the strategy, but I think instead of saying, here's the red line, we're not going to put any more troops in, they need to say, here's the red line, we're going to destroy ISIS, and we're going to use the proportional violence of the military to the point where we can destroy this threat.
So, Colonel, circle back to your opening comment here. How do you destroy ISIS with a new strategy in Ramadi today?
Well, you kill them, and you keep on killing them for years, and you don't stop killing them until they're gone. But the problem is we're focused on the wrong things. The administration's primary focus right now is on the pretense that Humpty Dumpty Iraq can be put back together. Iraq's over, it's dead, it's finished. And as a result of that, we're not focusing on what we should be focusing on, which is killing Islamic State militants wherever we can find them. Rather, we're focused on this fiction of the Baghdad government in the future winning over the hearts and minds of Sunni Arabs and the Kurds, and everybody will be happy. We funnel arms to the Iraqi government. They never make it to the Kurds or the Sunni Arabs who are willing to fight Islamic State. And you know what our one success has been, Bill, in all of this in Iraq? We've been very successful at arming Islamic State because we give the weapons to the Iraqi government, they give them to their troops, and the troops run away. I mean, look at the vehicles Islamic State is driving. Look at their weapons.
We've seen it.
Those are U.S. That's U.S. equipment.
We've seen it. Colonel, thank you. Ralph Peters reacting to that breaking news with us today. Thank you, sir. More now with Martha.
Thank you.
Let's go to John Bolton now, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. Good morning, Ambassador Bolton. Good to have you with us today. So we're just getting a look at all of this, and you heard what Colonel Peters was saying. He thinks that the timing of this release is somewhat interesting. Do you?
Well, I think that would be par for the course with this administration. We also don't know whether this load of documents is really representative of what was taken in the bin Laden raid, or if those documents themselves are really representative of the state of al-Qaeda at the time. But I do think there's some interesting material, even on first glance, particularly the point you mentioned a moment ago that bin Laden saw the Arab Spring as an opportunity to enhance al-Qaeda's influence, to pick up recruits. That is the exact opposite of the perception of the Obama administration. Many academics, think tank people, journalists in Washington and around the world who said the Arab Spring is really the alternative, the opposite to Islamic terrorism. I think bin Laden predicted the future a lot more accurately. Yeah. He saw the Arab Spring as leading to more radicalism. Quite accurately, it would appear. It's interesting that he did not want an Islamic State. He said, don't put your focus on an Islamic State. Instead, what you need to do is attack the U.S. embassies. He even gave specific embassies. Togo, he mentioned. He talked about hitting American oil companies as another big priority for him. It seems that there was a bit of a divide in the leadership because everybody else went to the lone wolf attacks that we have seen, or the smaller sort of base things that we've seen across the world. Well, this is still the debate today between al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, that al-Qaeda wants to focus on the United States, the Islamic State wants to focus on blasphemers and apostasy within the Islamic world. And it's a debate where there's no happy outcome from our point of view, because I think as ISIS consolidates its power in what used to be Iraq and what used to be Syria, the oil-producing monarchies on the Arabian Peninsula are increasingly in jeopardy, that they are the next targets for ISIS, that sees control of the oil assets there as critical to really establishing the caliphate they want. Disunity among the terrorists is not necessarily a good thing for the United States. It's a ferment within this broader Islamicist movement that poses multiple threats to us that we're still not clear about.
John Bolton, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
So U.S. intelligence agencies have declassified 100 of these documents. There could be thousands.
Absolutely.
No one really knows.
Is a treasure trove 103 documents? Right. I don't know.
And some of the DVDs that apparently were taken too inside of his hideout there, a mile from Pakistan's West Point. But these are the 100 they've decided to put forth today. So more to come on this, right?